Hello, YouTube. In recent years, people have been trying to rehabilitate the prequels. And to be honest with you, this is a great thing for the Star Wars fandom. Let's be honest here. The prequels are better than the sequel trilogy. Um, there is no question. The prequels had their problems, but they've always had a loyal group of fans, and I can understand why they like this these films. Um, in some way, we didn't need to know everything about what led up to Anakin becoming Darth Vader, but I think that the story, considering what has occurred with the sequel trilogy, there can be no doubt in my mind that this prequel trilogy definitely enhances the saga um, without ripping the legacy to shreds. Um, this is one of those problems. It's when you try to extend the franchise into essentially becoming essentially a money making machine with little soul behind it. We get this kind of result we're getting. The sequel trilogy films, including Rogue One, including Solo, which I did enjoy, including The Last Jedi, including The Force Awakens. The problem is too much nostalgia. Way too much nostalgia. Too much desire to recapture the past. Look, I enjoyed Solo, but Solo's problem was that it was stuck in repeating the greatest hits of Han Solo's life. That was a big mistake. They should have focused on an original story. Rogue One, once again, still stuck with, we got to look out, we got to find out who got the Death Star plans. And let me tell you something. Finding out about who stole the Death Star plans make for me works more as a kind of thing we don't need to know about that. It should be in mystery. It's better that way. I mean, in the expanded universe, in that time when we actually had good stories in the expanded universe, it was Kyle Katarn who was responsible for stealing the Death Star plans. Look, this whole um, sequel trilogy has been a complete failure. Okay, they're trying to pursue a political agenda. It is clear, and anybody who disagrees with them, of course, they're labeled all kinds of names. But we have a right, as consumers, as citizens, to call them out. Okay, this is a very important franchise to people. People enjoyed the story of Star Wars. It influenced their philosophy, their life, and look at the way that they treat it. The prequels had a vision. We got to see Coruscant for the first time. We got to see the beautiful planet of Naboo. I mean, there's more going on in Naboo. Okay, in terms of the graphics, in terms of the sets, in terms of the way it looks, than anything we've seen in the sequel trilogy. Any of the planets, or maybe except the one where they went on that side quest. I mean, it's it really is not a very good trilogy. The prequels, while they were very much hated by people when they were released, and I remember the online reaction. But in recent years, they have become a important symbol in representing what Lucas was trying to do. And if people had just been willing to give him more of a chance and try to explain that, maybe he could have made those movies better. Um, but the thing is that the sequel trilogy sucks. It's not good. Okay, and no matter what Disney tries to say, those are not good. They're not on the same level as the first six films. And not only are they not on the same level, but they ruin the legacy of Luke Skywalker and his friends. The entire legacy has been ruined by these films. So what we see is essentially that Darth Vader's sacrifice means nothing. Luke Skywalker's sacrifice means nothing. It has to be put into this character who is a representation of everything that has gone wrong in our system. People are not interested in making stories that are universal. They're interested in appealing to a tribal mentality. So because of that, these sequel trilogy movies are not going to be timeless. They aren't going to be well liked in the future. The prequels, while they, admittedly, they were definitely, I believe, more fandom oriented than a lot of the original trilogy films. But there is an element to them that is not trying to push an agenda. It's subtle about it. And there's a lot of references, real references to many cultures around the globe in the set design, in the music, in the costumes. It's all there. In the sequel trilogy looks like a bargain bin version of that. And I understand people say, "Oh, but they spent millions of dollars on these films." Yes, they did. Yes, the CGI looks good. It looks competent. The set design looks competent, looks nice, but there's something about it that just it screams unoriginal to me. It just seems boring. It doesn't seem interesting. It seems like it's trying to recapture lightning in the bottle, and it's just not going to be able to do that. I mean, these movies are about making money, and I understand every movie really is about that, other than movies made by auteurs, um, you know, artists of, that kind of thing. But this, I mean, is this surprising to us? I mean, this is what people should have expected. The movies are technically very competent, very nice looking films, but they're soulless. They don't have anything behind them except a few places that were interesting, but I mean, they didn't really expand on that, and The Last Jedi really made that worse. So, because you see, when the second act is not coherent and is disconnected with everything, it makes the whole story feel like it's not structured properly. So, the sequel trilogy sucks. It's terrible, honestly. I mean, they're fun films, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you're always scratching your head and wondering, well, 30 years before, our heroes had scored a great victory only for it to not mean anything. So it undermines the whole fundamental story of Star Wars, essentially. It was done at episode 6, and they should have focused on characters. Focusing. This is the thing. Star Wars needed to, and I believe this was a big mistake with The Force Awakens, that they needed to go and focus on a new set of circumstances, a new type of conflict that would have allowed for the franchise to breathe beyond the Skywalkers. But as we can clearly see, Disney is more in the business of nostalgia than they are in the business of actually having original ideas. Why do you think they keep remaking all these animated films rather than hiring people who have the skill in actually doing traditional animation to actually make new films, right? New properties, new IPs, okay? They're not doing that. So they're creatively bankrupt. Is the sequel trilogy is terrible, and that's all I have to say.